If you're making one of these three mistakes when you're presenting your care plans, nobody's going to say yes. I've been working with chiropractors for many, many years, ran my own offices for over 10 years, and the single biggest point of confusion for a patient is when a chiropractor hasn't succinctly thought through the process of care planning or putting together the finances. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to run through three simple ways for you to clean up your care plans. There's that old saying that says if you confuse them, you lose them. There's three options you have to choose from. Choose one of them, but most importantly, watch this video with your team. I guarantee that you'll close more people off the back of this. Okay guys, you're here, you're listening, you're hopefully learning, pen and paper. The point of these videos is for me to make an impact in your business, and it's all for free, which is epic. It makes me feel good and you can grow. And if you want to find out more about how to work with us at a deeper level, whether it's my inner circle group or my platinum group, just make sure you reach out to my team. But for now, let's sort this out. So here's the problem. The problem is that when you run through your recommendations, you then have to give the patient an option of how they're going to pay. Now, there's a gradient. There is, excuse my language, completely effed one level, which is pay per visit, schedule one visit at a time, and there's the other end of the spectrum. People I work with that only do 72 visit care plans, corrective care plans, etc. There's a huge spectrum. So the point of this video is not to run through every single point of the recommendations and care planning. The point of this video is just to focus on the finance section. I wouldn't do this video any justice if I didn't mention a few key points. Number one, when we go into the finance section, it is assumed that you have locked down the care planning. Golden rule, you never answer a money question. That's going to sound like a funny statement. You should be teaching that to your front desk as well as your associate docs. And if you've never heard that before, you never answer a money question. If someone says to you how much it's going to cost on the phone, you may mention the per visit fee, but it always is, it depends. It depends on what we found, if we can help you, etc. Now this is the same. You've got to the point where you've given them their recommendations, and I'm going to give you three choices you have, and all of these are being used. And I hate it when coaches and consultants say this is the only way to do it. That is not true. There is something called horses for courses. I've actually since learned that that's not a saying that translates in the United States so much, but in the UK it's certainly something. Horses for courses means there is a care plan that's better for you. For newer grads watching this, I know which one you're going to gravitate to, and in of itself that might be a problem, but at least it's following some of the fundamental good basics of setting up core plans. So I'm going to try to give you the theory behind it, some of the greats, why not chiropractic greats, sales greats, why it's structured that way, and how to do it. So let's separate this into two elements. So the first type of care plans are going to be specifically about adjustment only practices. Okay, so with that context, there's two ways to do this. One is going to be something like there's 12 visits, 24 visits, and 48 visits. That doubling of the last one I'll explain in a moment. The other way is I'm recommending 24 visits and there's three ways to pay. Now, before someone comments and says that I'm an idiot for suggesting the 12, 24, 36 or 48, what they're not understanding is the nuances of chiropractic across the world. And that is a very important point. If you're watching this from the United Kingdom, there are reasons why that is important. There's also going to be in both of these an option to pay per visit. Now, in many offices, you can position the price, let's say 24 visits. If you paid for that per visit, it would equal this. And then the line is, we're not set up for that, or we don't do that in this office. Now, what's an important nuance for this if you're watching this? It depends where you're practicing, if you can say that. For many of you might not know this, but in the United Kingdom, it is illegal not to offer a per visit fee. So no coach or consultant who tells you that, hey, you should never do that, that's not right in certain countries, right? So with that said, you've got to make sure this stuff works for you in your state, country, and legislation. Now, first type of way we're going to talk about is once you've recommended your care plan, lock that down 3 times a week for 4 weeks, twice a week for 4 weeks, once a week for 4 weeks might be your recommendation. And now it's simply presenting them with pre-designed care plans. And it's something like 12 visits, 24 visits, and 36 visits, or 12 visits, 24 visits, and 48 visits. So you may have something like this. It may just be our first care plan is 12 visits, our second one is we have a 24 adjustment plan, and you may say say something like, hey, we have a 48 adjustment plan. There's a reason that this one is much bigger, which I'll show you in a moment. As a rule of thumb, typically what happens is people would say this is a 10% discount, this is a 20% discount, and sometimes this is a 30% discount. That might be a way to do it. I've also seen this as 5, I've seen this as 10, and I've seen this as 15 or 20. If your per visit fee was $80, if your per visit fee is $80, what this would work out to be is something like the following. So if you presented these 12 adjustments at a 10% discount, would be $864. Okay, now typically these are pre-done. There is a disadvantage of that it seems so canned, right? I'm just showing you how the numbers might work. At a 20% discount, it'll be 1536, and then this one on a 48 visit care plan at 30%, the pay in full option is 2688. Now, what's important to mention with the 12, 24, or 48 adjustment plan, they're all pay in full options. What also happens sometimes, we might say this is a bronze plan, you may say this is a silver plan, and you may say this is a gold plan. Now the nuance for all of these is that typically your biggest plan, or there's always an ugly duckling. I've seen people make this the ugly duckling by going 12 visits, there's only a 5% discount, whereas this is like there's a big jump between 5 and 15 is a big discount here, and then there's only like a 5%, 15, so this is 20, this is 15. So there's a significantly bigger discount here that positions the middle plan as your option. Now I've seen Alex Hormozy talk about this as something he calls a menu close, where he'll say present the 3, and then you might say, I don't recommend this one right now because we need to get you 24 and get you through a progress exam, and then we'll decide. But what most people choose is one of these two. Or you may say something like this: however you choose to pay is completely up to you. If you pay per visit, there'll be $80 per session. What most people do, we've got discounts built in depending on how you choose to pay, and what most people do is choose one of our pre-care plans. So you can pay for 12 in advance, 24 in advance, or 48 in advance. And you can simply say to them which one suits you best. A nice little line before that is to just kind of position them that to which one is the most popular. I mean, if you know this, there's about a 30% spike in menu orders. If you look at a menu next time you go to a restaurant, typically you'll see 1 or 2 items on the menu that have something that says most popular or very popular or trending or whatever it is. They have often a 30% spike in orders of those when we tell people that other people are ordering it or that it's very popular. So you may say something like that. If you ask me which one most people choose, they normally go for that silver plan. And then you ask them which one suits you best. You must keep quiet after you say which one suits you best. The person that speaks first loses. Another nuance in that, if you're having a lot of people saying in here, I'm going to go home and think about it, there's lots of elements that we could talk about in future videos, but often they were thinking about it. And then you interrupted their thinking by speaking. And then they said to you, well, now I need to go home and think about it. So the key is which one suits you best, and let the person that talks first loses, let them answer. And whatever they choose is fine. Remember, in certain states and countries, they may say, I'm going to pay per visit. That's okay. My wife built a booming practice, hundreds of visits a week, off the back of a lot of people, but she was militant and disciplined with the schedule. People booked ahead of time, they booked their 36 visits ahead of time, and some of them did pay per visit, and she built an amazing practice. So that's also okay, but you want to give people options for which one to choose, ask them, and then step away. Hey, quick one, if you're enjoying this video and you're getting value from it, like, share, subscribe, or comment in the comment section about what you'd like to see more videos about. It'd really be helpful. Okay, the next way is still adjustment only visits, but it is going to give them a schedule of care and then 3 ways to pay. So you may say you need 36 visits, you've locked down the schedule of care, remember, and then you're getting 3 ways to pay for that. This, the ugly duckling, is the pay per visit, whereas the one before that, we didn't have that on the page. So this one is the ugly duckling, or the unattractive plan is the pay per visit option. So you can, for this example, I've pre-done it for you. Again, I've seen it work not as well when it's filled out. It's better when you draw it out live in front of them. For the purpose of this video, I think it's handy for you to see it out live. So 24 visits, if they're paid per visit when you're presenting it, you would literally say that'd be $19 or $1,920. You just say the full amount out. And a lot of people will then take that off the table. So it's another version of the menu close. Either one, you've got ugly duckling. This is the ugly duckling. This is the one we're gonna use it as a comparative price or an anchor price, which is the biggest price, 1920, and then we're gonna take it to the table. Now, if you practice in a country where you can do this, great. In certain countries, you can't do this. You have to at least give people an option to pay per visit. In certain countries, you don't have to do it in the United States. You can, in certain states, you can say, hey, it would be 1920, but we're not set up for that here. Okay, so we take it off the table. So now they're choosing between two options. What most people choose is one of our prepayment care plans, or we have discounts built in depending how you choose to pay. And then you go through, there's two options, 2 installments and the PIF option. The PIF option is just the biggest discount. The installments option might be, say, 10%. The PIF option is 20%, and you can present it like this. So if you'd like to pay in 2 installments, we give you a 10% discount for that, and that is $864 this month immediately, and then $864 in another month's time. And then what most people choose, or what most people tend to do, is just do the pay in full option, and that gives you the biggest saving, and in this case 20% discount, and that's just $1,536. Now you've shelved this one, remember, basically, and now they're choosing between two, and you're saying which one suits you best. That's it. It's as simple as that. And the numbers just change based on whether you have 24, 36 visits there. But here's an important point to mention. With this option, specifically if you practice in a place where you can say we're not set up for pay per visit, that's where we can make this even uglier or even bigger. And that's where some people are charged, let's say $95 in adjustment. And these might still be the pay in full option and the installment option, but they look even more attractive compared to those big numbers. But that's pretty attractive, right? So 1920, 1536, that's a big saving for a lot of people. And then you can break it up into installments. So that's how you set up an adjustment only. Here's your schedule of care. And there's 3 ways to pay. Okay, the third is if you're in an office, we have multiple services. It is essential that you spend a lot of time around the choreography and the positioning of these care plans. Probably the area I see the biggest mistake here is in offices that have multiple services, because if you confuse them, you lose them. So it's our job and our responsibility to present it in such a way that is really easy for them to see. We just finished the mastermind last week, and one of the docs in the room was $2.5 million a year, nearing in on 7 figures net profits a year. And this is exactly how they do it. So before anyone watches this, and this is not theory, this is exactly how we teach our doctors multiple services to do it. And I've never seen a better way to do it. There's 2 key pieces of information I need to tell you, or tools, but there's 2 documents here. I haven't filled them out fully because I really want to focus on just the finance part. But once you've done a good day 1, day 2, this is pre-filled out before the patient comes into their visit for their report of findings. All we do is simply, once we've gone through our report of findings, is present this with them. We teach, have patient goals, doctor goals, which I won't go through today, but with the scheduling, if you're going to pull this off with multiple services, it's kind of a 2-step part. You need to first help identify what services they need. And in that, you're going to have this care scheduler. And in this case, we've got a 3 times a week. And by the way, in the comments, there'll be some links to some of these resources. In this case, they're going to have chiropractic adjustments 3 times a week for a month, twice a week for a month, once a week for a month. They're also going to have spinal decompression, and you're going to fill that out. In this case, we're going to do twice a week for a month, and we're going to do once a week for a month. They're also going to have 2 re-exams. I'm going to keep it simple for this example, but that is how a care scheduler would look like. And then we're going to transition to the financial part of this. So we show them that first. We lock those down. We maybe even talk a little bit more about what days of the week they'd like to come. Is your mornings, afternoons? Let's get that at least, and you can scribble a lot while you're doing that. Then we move to finances, and we say, now we're just going to talk about the finances. The next part of that is we've got this pre-filled out. So after having 24 visits, we put the totals there, the totals that the patient is responsible for If you are a cash-based or cash-only practice that doesn't take insurance, this is the way you would do it. We've got the patient responsibility there, and we've put the full amount there. So if you're charging $80 an adjustment, it'll be $24 times 80, and that will be your 1920. If they're having spinal decompression, in this case, in this example, it's just 12 decompression sessions. Most of you will be a lot more than that, but I wanted to show you how it stack up. Then there'll be 12 times the sessions per session for their spinal decompression, $150 a session. And then if you've got 2 re-exams there at $80 a session for this example, the total will be $3,880. Now, in this example, we also basically give them options. And the only options we give them is pay in full or installments. That's it. So some people give no discount for installments and give it, say, a 10% discount for their pay in full. What's more common though is that we have hey, there's 2 options. If you would like to save the most amount of money, most people just choose to pay for that in 1 installment, and that is $3,104. And then you could know the saving amount and you can scribble that there. But it looks a little better when you're able to scribble those numbers down as you talk. So that's the one way to do it, is you're getting a pay in full discount, 20%, or if you'd like to pay installments, we give you a 10% discount, 30% investment down today, and then you can do the other 2 over 2 months. Actually, whenever you do a 3-plan installment, which essentially this is, a simpler way to do it is you could just break it down into 3 equal installments. That is done often also. So you actually get your full investment over just 2 months when you have a 3-pay, because they pay today, they pay in 30 days time, and they pay in another 30 days time. So over 2 months, you get all your money. That is how you're going to structure a multi-service care plan. So I hope that was helpful. You have 3 options there. There's some golden rules putting together care plans, but the biggest one I want you to take from this is there's almost always 3 options, especially if there's 1 service. Just chiropractic adjustments, we're going to either give them 3 types of care plans to go for, 12, 24, 36, or here's your recommendations, and there's 3 ways to pay for that. Again, be careful of where you practice in the world. From a legislative perspective, there are restrictions in certain countries on how much you can do, and whether you can say, if you paid for that 1 visit at a time or paid per visit, it would cost this much, but we're not set up for that. You can't say that line in certain countries, so make sure you're set up in your country and state to do that. And then lastly is, if you have a multi-service office, there are multiple services in the practice, trust me, don't do it any other way. You're gonna stack the value, stack the services, have the amounts there, and then offer them either installment option or pay in full. If you like the video, please like, share, subscribe for more golden nuggets just like this, and how we're helping practices hit 7 figures, multi-7 figures, and even 7 figures in net profit, doing exactly these things. If they can do it, so can you. Follow that formula, 3 steps, 3 ways for them to pay. Those are the 3 options I suggest you're doing and are working in some of the busiest practices in the planet. See you soon.